Coco and Maddie call this the best sandwich in the world.
Greatest sandwich in the world, Italian beef!
And Ramon claims that tortas have class. And this random on Reddit says they have no clue what this is, but they're adding it to their list, and that's good enough for me. But I'm gonna decide what one I like best, from the Chicago Italian beef, the Aussie Steak Sanga, and the Milanesa Torta from Mexico. Let's get stuck in. The Chicago beef. Is it a steak sandwich? I don't know, I guess so. It's a beef sandwich, that's for sure. Anyway, this is what you're gonna need. Of course, the beef. What you're looking for is a lean piece of beef. I know this is like a highly marbled piece of Wagyu, but that's just because I have access to it. You want something like a rump cap or a piece of rump or a top round. I think they usually use top round. In Matty Matheson's video, he used a rump cap. That's why I'm gonna use this. So for the spices, you're gonna need some celery salt, some ground black pepper, chili flakes, garlic powder, ground coriander, ground fennel, smoked paprika, oregano, and a couple of bay leaves. So starting with the beef, we're gonna season it heavily with salt on one side and add it to a large Dutch oven over a high heat with a bit of oil to get color on both sides. Once it's in there, season it more with salt on the other side. Once it's got good color, remove and set aside. Now you're gonna add sliced shallot, sliced celery, sliced carrot, and a few crushed garlic cloves. Then you're gonna add all your spices and your bay leaves, followed by 1 liter of beef stock. Next, add a stock cube. Why do you add a stock cube? Because you want this broth to be super beefy. You almost want it to be over seasoned at the end because it's actually all gonna fall off the meat anyway. Give it a stir, put your meat back in, add a lid to the top, bring it up to a simmer, and then put it into a 180-degree oven until you reach an internal temperature of 50 degrees Celsius. We're not looking for overcooked meat here. We want a medium rare meat at the end, so it's probably only gonna take about 35-40 minutes. Now your beef's come out of the oven, you're gonna let it cool in the stock that we cooked it in. That's super important. If you take it out too early, it'll dry out. So why we need to cool it? It's because the colder it is, the easier it's gonna be to slice nice and thin later. And the second most important thing after the beef is the jus that you cooked the beef in. Make sure you keep that. We're gonna strain that in a second and I'll tell you what to do with it. The giardiniera, which is basically a bunch of vegetables that's been pickled. You can make this yourself. There's lots of recipes out there, or you can just do like I did and cheat and buy it. Top tip, if you buy it and it's really chunky like mine was today, you can just cut them up a bit smaller. You don't want it too big, otherwise when you get a mouthful, you end up with a big mouthful of just one veg. No bueno. And the bread, you're looking for a baguette. So we're gonna reheat the sauce that the beef was cooked in and just pass it through a fine strainer first. Get that heating up. Now make sure you taste this. What you're gonna do is heat your beef up in this. This is a very thin sauce, not much of it's gonna stick to the meat, so you kind of want to almost borderline salty. If it's not flavorful and salty enough, just reduce it down a bit until it is at the right amount of salt. So, to carve the beef, this is cold now. In the Chicago beef shops, they use a meat slicer. They make sure the meat is completely cold. I don't have a meat slicer at home, and I'm not buying one just to make a sandwich. So, against the grain, nice sharp thin knife, and just carve it as thin as you can. Ideally, you're looking for something like that. Now the colder this is, the easier it's gonna be to slice thin. To the point, you could almost shove this in the freezer for an hour till it just starts to freeze, and that's gonna make it even easier to slice. All right, so our jus is just simmering nicely. We don't want it like rapidly boiling. Get all that sliced meat in there to heat up. Take our French stick, big or as little as you want. That feels about right. There's a few ways you can eat this. You can eat it dry, which is no sauce on it at all. You can eat it like dipped, I think, where they dip both ends, or you can eat it, I think I call it just like soggy or something, where they dunk the whole thing. I'm not a super big fan of like massively soggy sandwiches, but I think we'll just dip the ends. All right, now our meat's hot, we'll load it up, and you wanna load it up. This is a beef sandwich as well. There's not 100 grams of meat in this thing. You want a fair amount. Giardiniera. There's a lot of debate about whether sweet peppers or what we call capsicum go in here as well. I'm choosing to stay neutral on the subject and just leaving them out. Now, a really important step is that you wrap it up in paper. Oh, I almost forgot to dip it. So we're gonna dip one end, other end. Wrap it up tight. The reason you wrap it up is so that all that juice that comes from the beef, and let that sit there for 5 minutes, has time to come out of the beef and gets absorbed into the bread. After we've rested it for a bit and cut it in half, look at that. I think I've even gone a bit light on the meat. It's unusual for me. Just one more dip for good luck. It's not date food, that's for sure. It is, however, delicious. Lots of textures going on here. We've got the crunchy baguette, and then you get the soft bits that are dipped, and it's super beefy, and you got the sharpness of that giardiniera cutting through. That's a delicious sandwich.
It's lunchtime.
I guess so. Good on her, I guess. the classic Aussie Steak Sanga. First up, we're gonna need to make our beetroot relish. Beetroot relish couldn't be easier. Simply peel and grate your beetroot and finely dice your onions. You're gonna add about a tablespoon of olive oil to a pot, add your onions and your beetroot and stir it through well. Then you're gonna add your salt, your allspice and your sugar. Give it another stir, followed by your vinegar, and you're gonna cook this down for about 30 minutes until it's dried out and the beetroot and onion is cooked through. Into a jar, and that thing will last for like at least 2 or 3 weeks in the fridge. Next up, the garlic mayonnaise. Add your egg yolks to a tall jar with a splash of water. Next, you're gonna add your oil and you're gonna put an immersion or a stick blender right to the bottom. You're gonna turn it on slowly and then you're gonna slowly bring it up to emulsify that oil into the yolk. Once all the oil is emulsified into the yolk, you're gonna season it with lemon juice, grated garlic, and salt. Make sure you taste it for the salt levels, acid levels, and the amount of garlic that you want. I used 3 small cloves of garlic and that was perfect for me, but some people find it a little bit too overpowering. Steak. In my opinion, there's only one cut of beef for an Aussie steak sandwich, and that is a ribeye, also known as a Scotch fillet. Pretty simple, season it with just salt in my opinion. If you wanna add black pepper, then go for it, because there's no rules in cooking. Do what makes you happy. So cook your steak to whatever doneness you want. I'm going for kind of a medium rare here. I think any rarer, and you start having a lot of juice come into your sandwich, which is no good. We're also gonna season some thick cut onions and grill those on the grill as well. And make sure you rest your steaks for at least 5 to 10 minutes on a wire rack before you're ready to assemble. I think it needs to be on Turkish bread. Everyone keeps putting on sourdough. I think Turkish bread works better. Slice it open and we'll give it a toast. While that's toasting, we can carve our steak. So we're gonna start with the beetroot relish on the bottom. Next up, we hit it with our steak. Season it with some flaky salt, cheese. Got some nice tasty cheese here. Tasty cheese is actually a thing here in Australia. I think it's just a more aged cheddar. I don't know why we call it tasty cheese. Marketing, probably. Some rocket, our grilled onions, top our bread with garlic mayo. Now, a lot of places put a fried egg and pineapple on these things, and I am not here for it. Pineapple does not belong in steak sandwiches, in my opinion, but that's just me. All right, we're gonna cut this in half. Looks pretty good. You know what they say, truth's in the eating. That's great. The garlicky mayo comes through, a really nice beefy flavor from that steak that's grilled, and the sharpness from the beetroot at the bottom just cuts through all that fattiness. And I do enjoy this Turkish bread. It's soft and kind of easy to kind of get your chomps through.
This for me? Oh, thanks.
Good stuff. Hey babe, don't you have something to say?
Like and subscribe.
And finally, the Steak Milanesa Torta. Now, I've got high hopes for this one. I've made tortas before and they were delicious. And the addition of a crumbed piece of steak in there, how can you go wrong? So what are you gonna need? Well, first up, you need the salsa roja. For the salsa roja, you're gonna add a cast iron pan over a medium-high heat and you're gonna keep it dry, no oil. Then you're gonna add your onion, your tomato, your garlic, your bullhorn pepper, your ancho chili, and your pasilla chili. You're gonna toast your chilies for about 3 to 4 minutes before removing them and setting them aside. The rest of the veg, you're gonna keep cooking until you develop really good char. And they're cooked almost all the way through. Back to the chilies, you're gonna cut them open and de-seed them before you add them to a jar along with the raisins, and you're gonna cover them with water to steep. Once all the veg is cooked, you're gonna add it to a blender along with the steeped chilies and raisins, a big pinch of salt, and you're gonna blend until it's smooth. Once it's blended and nice and smooth, you're gonna add the juice of 1 lime, you're gonna blend again, and then you're gonna check for seasoning, and you're good to go. For the refried beans, you're gonna add a diced onion to a skillet with a couple of tablespoons of olive oil and saute it down with a pinch of salt for 2 to 3 minutes. Before you're gonna add your cooked beans, you can use canned beans if you want, that you've drained and rinsed, or like I have, I've just cooked these after I soaked them overnight. Add about 400 mils of chicken broth. Continue to cook them down until the beans start breaking down, then mash them as smooth as you want. I like mine fairly chunky, but you can take it right back to a paste if you like. One final check for seasoning and you're good to go. Let's get the crema ready. Pretty simple. You're gonna add 50-50 mix of sour cream and heavy cream to a bowl, and then you're just gonna season it with lime zest and salt. Give it a mix, and it's good to go. Now you can culture this overnight, whereby you leave it out at room temperature for it to effectively ferment a little bit, or you can eat it straight up. And last but definitely not least, it's time to crumb these steaks. The steak I'm using here is a sirloin, but I cut the fat off. Why? Because we're gonna deep fry it crumbed, and if you don't cut the fat off first, it ain't gonna render out and it's just gonna be nasty. The other addition is that we're gonna season our flour and our breadcrumbs both heavily with chili powder, ground cumin, and oregano. Smoked paprika, then it's a normal breading procedure in the flour, dust it off in your beaten egg, and into the breadcrumbs before frying them at about 180 degrees Celsius till they're golden brown on both sides. To assemble, you're just gonna add on a little bit of oil on one part of that pan. It's on a medium or high heat. So this is the bread we're gonna use. They call it a tortilla in Mexico. This isn't exactly the same as they have in Mexico. We can't get them here, but as far as I can tell, it's as close as you're gonna get. You can also use bolillo, which is basically like a soft baguette. I think is the best way to describe it. First up, we're gonna get the beans onto that little bit of oil and get those frying. Make it around the same size shape as your burger bun, and then place the bottom part onto that. I'm just gonna let that fry, let those beans get a nice little crust. Cheese. Now, just like the bread, we can't get Mexican cheese where I live in Australia. I think the best alternative that I've found is provolone, which I struggle to find sometimes even here, which is kind of crazy. And I think the next best, what I've got here, is some Gouda. You get some slices of Gouda down into that pan, and I'm gonna get the top bun on top of that. All right, once that cheese is all melty, really swiftly get your spatula underneath it, and flip it off. Be careful, that cheese will be nuclear hot. Make sure you get any of that extra stuff off there. More cheese is always a good idea. So for the bottom with the beans, same thing. Get your spatula swiftly underneath it. Wink. Get your steaks in there. You can probably just put one, but you know, I'm making my dinner now, it's late in the day. Some lettuce, tomato. Sandwich construction is always a fine art. Flip that upside down and the tomatoes might stay a bit better. There we go. Now we're talking. Some finely sliced white onion. And then our sauces, we've got salsa roja. Get as much or as little of that salsa roja on there. Salsa roja, I sounded like such a Kiwi just then. Crema, just to, well, I tell you what, I'm pretty excited about this one. And on that goes. Quick tidy up, and then we'll eat. Would you look at that? Well, I feel like this is gonna be a messy sandwich, so. It's my happy dance. Wow. That's super tasty. I think a lot of the reason why that's falling apart so much is bad construction on my end. But the flavors are incredible. The soft bun, the crispy steak, still nice and juicy in the middle, all those delicious flavors from that salsa, the veggies cutting through it, incredible. For me, the Milanese Torta definitely takes this out, followed by a close second of the Chicago Italian style beef, and lastly, I'm afraid, the Aussie Sanga. But they're all delicious and they're all very unique and different. This is definitely the most labor intensive. I think the Chicago beef is actually probably the least labor intensive, even though it takes the longest. Thank you, legends, so much for watching. Like this video if you took anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Oh.
I'm back.
Look who comes.
Oh, this one looks intense.
It's intense. I'll get you a plate.
Thank you. I don't even know how to approach this. Oh no.
I think the sandwich artist's to blame for that.
So you?
Yeah. How's the flavors of it?
Yeah, it's good.
What was your favorite?
I think it was the Chicago Italian beef. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
I think that one takes it out for me. Oh, sorry, Duck.
Good choice.
You know what? I'm gonna choose the Australian 1 second though.
Oh, you think this is third?
Yeah.
It's too messy for you, isn't it?
It is too messy. And I actually really like the beetroot relish on the Australian Steak Sanga, so that's my pick. I'm not even gonna attempt to pick this back up again.